Thank you, Steve, and good morning. So this talk is about trying to composite actors into backgrounds, either virtual sets or background plates that we recorded photographically, and really try to pay attention to getting the light that is on the actor to be really the same light that you're seeing in the background. And this is very much in the spirit of traditional live action compositing, which is these days most often done with a blue screen. The actor is filmed in the studio. The studio lighting filmed in front of a blue screen. The background is recorded separately, and then using a color difference process, you can get the blue screen to create a math. This is basically a cutout image that will allow you to suppress the actor's shape from the background and then composite the actor, and then you get an image of the actor in front of the background. Now, the thing that you don't get here is necessarily consistent lighting between the actor and the background, because the actor is illuminated with the light in the studio, and the background is illuminated with the light wherever you happen to have there. So what we've tried to do is to address this problem by taking a look at some work that we've done of illuminating computer-generated objects, such as these, with measurements of real-world illumination, such as these light probe images of various lighting environments. And the kind of technique that we generally use for this is to texture map one of these high dynamic range omnidirectional images onto a big sphere of illumination, place the computer-generated objects in the center, and then tell your favorite global illumination algorithm to render the appearance of all of this light impinging upon the computer-generated objects, and take a look at what it looks like. And the kinds of renders that we tend to get for this look like this. So here are those computer-generated objects, and they're illuminated by those environments. And in fact, at the same time, we're actually looking at that sphere of illumination directly right behind the object. So you not only see the objects illuminated by those environments, but you see the background as well. And one of the nice things about this effect is that it really looks like those computer-generated objects might plausibly even be there, because the lighting on the objects is consistent with the lighting that is there in the environment. And so we thought, well, would there be a way to possibly make the same thing happen for real actors being composited into environments? And the thing that seemed to suggest itself was, is there some way to construct a sphere of instant illumination that would be for real, and place an actor into the middle of that? And that's exactly what this project was all about. This project basically builds and is related to a number of other projects that have been going on recently. And those are, the next slide here. Let's see here. Well, we're missing slide. Oh, yes, there's one more slide here. So the basic process is that we'll take a actual lighting environment, or environment where you know where the light is, use that to generate the background plate, also use that to generate the image of the actor illuminated by that environment, and then place the actor into the environment so that they look like they're actually illuminated by the environment that they're composited into. So some related work has been a recent very nice analysis of the blue screen mapping process by Smith and Gwynn, and a paper this year's SIGGRAPH about applying that to kind of unconstrained real-time backgrounds. There's been a number of papers about recombining different basis lightings of an object or even a human face in order to show that human face in different lighting environments. And there's also been recent work about taking objects and very accurately simulating the refracted and reflected light through them, including some work that shows this in real time. For our project, the first thing that we needed to do was actually construct that sphere of illumination, and we found a very helpful website here called where you just decide how many tessellations of an icosahedron you would like and the radius, and it tells you all the different lengths of the struts and the number of connectors that you need. So we went to the website, plugged in the numbers that we wanted, and put some simple plans together for a local machine shop, and got the parts here. This is Andreas Winger here, putting together the beginnings of the light stage device. We also, in addition, needed to find some light sources. So there's actually 156 light sources in this light stage, and we needed lights that could be driven to any color of red, green, and blue illumination. And we were also extremely fortunate in that case to find something that was useful for that. And they are these eye-color MR lights from Color Kinetics. Each one of them has red, green, and blue LEDs, which are bright enough these days to actually illuminate objects and then be recorded with video cameras. And it's got a very convenient expanded it to place an additional light at each one of these edges in the stage as well, taking it to a total of 156 lights. The way that we drive the lights with sampled lighting environments, such as light probe images that we have here, this is the Grace Cathedral light probe, is that we simply take the image and resample it to essentially a 156 pixel version of it with the appropriate downsampling and such, and then we play that image back onto those light sources, and it can illuminate the actor. And these are in fact 3 of our lighting environments here, and some images of actors standing within the light stage illuminated by those environments. And we'll see these in motion in just a moment. But what I'd like to also say is that what we need to really do to make this complete is to be able to show the environments behind the actors as well. And that means that we need to obtain a matte when they're standing there on the stage. We could try to go to the traditional process of simply putting a blue screen behind the actor and use perhaps the color difference method in order to get the matte. But a drawback to that is, well, we don't really want to have to cover up all of those lights with a blue screen. And in fact, another drawback is we don't really want to have a lot of blue light back there that's going to be reflecting on the actor, kind of showing through their hair and reflecting on the sides of their face, causing problems with blue spill. Because what we really want to do is get exactly the lighting that was in the environment without changing it around by placing big colored pieces of cardboard behind them. So what we decided to do was to try to get this matte image here with a second camera using non-visible light, so that we could actually somehow hopefully get a field of infrared illumination behind them and photograph the actor silhouetted against that field of infrared light. The first thing that we needed to do is to find some kind of material that would be black in the visible spectrum, but also reflect infrared light, so we could light it up with IR lighting and then get this kind of effect. And we basically looked at a number of different black cloths here. There's some Debevec, and I think there's about 4 t-shirts we picked up at various SIGGRAPH conferences here. And we actually found that, very fortunately, if you look at these things in the infrared, quite a number of commonly available cloths actually reflect infrared light. Some do and some don't. We then went to a local fabric store and found quite a nice supply of very good quality fabric that simply reflects IR and is also quite dark in the visible spectrum. So we then took this cloth, sewed it into the shape of the back of our light stage here, cut holes in it for the lights to leak through, and then augmented the light stage with 6 of these infrared LED banks of lights to project the infrared light onto the back of the light stage. We then built a camera rig that would simultaneously record the actor in the visible spectrum and in the infrared. And that's what this thing is here. So we have our Sony color camera. It's NTSC resolution with 3-chip video camera. And over here is a monochrome camera, which just happens to have sensitivity that goes into the infrared. We put a filter in here to block all the visible light. And we put a beam splitter in between them at 45 degrees angle so that we simultaneously get the same image from both cameras, essentially. The image that we get of the actor in front of the infrared illumination actually looks like this. We weren't able to get a perfectly even field of infrared light behind the actor, but we were able to illuminate the background without spilling too much light onto the actor themselves. The way that we processed this to get the desired map that we wanted was to, for any particular shot that we do, have the actor duck down out of the shot, and then record a clean plate of what the background looks like. And if you have your camera ready measurably calibrated, you can simply take this image of the actor silhouetted against the map and divide it by this image, and that yields very directly this image. Wherever it doesn't change, you're dividing x by x, and you get 1, which is a good thing for the background here. And wherever the actor is blocking things, you get a small number divided by a not terribly small number, and you get something close to 0. Now, these dark areas here where the holes are cut for lights, very fortunately, the front of those light sources actually reflected back enough of the infrared that we got a non-zero response for those. And so we were able to have the lights not appear. In a future version, we'll probably put a little bit of a dark mesh in front of it so the light can get through, but it'll reflect even more infrared. You may see some artifacts in some of the mattes, a couple of twinkling pixels, because these things were getting close to the thresholds that we had. So this is at least by our standards, a reasonably good quality mat with just a little bit of garbage matting here. We're able to clean it up just a little bit more, and that's the kind of thing that we use in our composites to take our actors who are illuminated by that light and then composite them into those lighting environments. And if we can go to the video, I'll show some of this stuff in motion. Okay, so this is our first lighting environment spinning around here. It's a high dynamic range omnidirectional image, and it's being converted in real time into those 156 light source directions. This is our friend Emily here in the light stage. We're actually rotating around on a platform so that we can simulate the camera moving around her, and we're interactively also moving the light around her as she moves around as well. This is what the infrared camera saw. We flipped it left-right so it's the same orientation as the color camera image. And here's the clean plate that we'll use to divide it to create the mat that's cleaned up. Let her flip her hair around a little bit so we can test if the mat worked out reasonably well. And here she is, lit by the light of the Berkeley elliptoscope and simultaneously composited into it. We have another example here. So this is Grace Cathedral. And here's the lighting environment, which consists principally, there's this bright yellow altar on one side of the cathedral here, and then there's also these somewhat bluish stained glass windows at the top, and you can see the altars getting replicated here in the background. And you can see a little bit of the stained glass windows reflecting their hair on her forehead. And when we twirl things around here, you can see some rim lighting on her face there from the altar as it goes by. Some of the reflections of the stained glass windows out there. And we have one more example here. This is the Uffizi gallery. We cut pretty quickly to the final composite. This is another friend of our laboratory, Alana, who's in here. That stick was used to synchronize the two cameras. And there's Alana in the Uffizi gallery. Thank you. So in the paper we talk about some issues related to the fact that we have a somewhat limited resolution of the incident lighting. We only have 156 lights. I think for future versions it would be very helpful to have more of them. If you look at particularly Alana in the Uffizi gallery as she rotates around, you can see a little bit of artifacting because of the multiple shadows you get from the different light sources, which we saw if we had more light sources. They were larger area light sources. So we were certainly happy with the quality of the results that we got from the infrared compositing system, and wondered, well, certainly someone must have done this before. It's such a good idea, and avoids a lot of the problems of blue spill. And with just a little bit of research, we were actually able to find that this technique dates back, in fact, as early as the 1940s, using film. And we found that it was first proposed here by Leonard Pickley in a paper called Composite Photography, and then there was a paper in the Journal of the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers by Zoli Vidor describing a version of the process that was used on several films. It was actually quickly replaced by something called the sodium process, where you use sodium light behind the actor. It's a yellow monochromatic light, which you could then notch reject from a color camera and then bandpass accept to a second piece of film. Both the infrared and the sodium processes used old Technicolor cameras. Those were the first cameras that could record color by using 3 strips of black and white film going through. Once we had color film, they weren't as necessary, but people could use them for other tricks, such as visual effects, or running a strip of infrared film down one of the slots and a strip of color film down another. And the sodium process actually was used for example, Mary Poppins, particularly Duck Dance Around the Penguins, and it was used for Hitchcock's movie The Birds, which have incredible matte work if you're able to get the DVDs of those. They were eventually replaced by the blue screen process because the color difference method made it possible to get a good quality matte from a single regular motion picture camera that was a lot easier to use than one of these old Technicolor cameras. Of course, you don't have to use the infrared compositing process with our technique. You could use a blue screen process if you wanted to. And Professor Masa Inakabe at Keio University has been working with a light stage device here and has used a front projection blue screen process where there's a retroreflective material back there, a camera with a ring of blue LEDs, and then the actor is seen basically with a relatively traditional looking blue screen behind them, except that's because of the retroreflectivity of the background. You can do the composite that way as well. I'd like at this point to talk about a number of the calibration processes that we went through to get the composites that were shown. And that actually is what a lot of the paper concerns itself with. We really tried to get correct radiometric consistency between the background and between the actor. And so we carefully calibrated the color response of the light sources. We found the color kinetic lights actually kind of have a gamma curve of about 1.9 when we send the 8-bit values. And that actually was enormously helpful for us because of the fact that it effectively extends the dynamic range of these 8-bit devices to closer to maybe 10 or 12 bits, so that helps the dynamic range of our device. We also calibrated the Sony color camera as well as the infrared camera for the response curves using our HDR shop software. And for both of the cameras as well, we geometrically calibrated them. The first thing that we did was to find out where their nodal points were, the center of projection. And we have a technique that we talked about in the paper that was able to figure out the center of projection of both of the cameras, I think to within about a millimeter in terms of how far it was behind the lens, using just a piece of cardboard and a ruler. And it's pretty easy to implement. That's described there. And using that technique, we found the relative distance of the nodal points behind the front surface of the lens, and that allowed us to place these two cameras at distances behind the front surface of the glass, such that the cameras were effectively directly on top of each other, and the two images should theoretically line up very well. Except for the fact that we have two different lenses which have approximately the same focal length, but they probably also have different radial distortion characteristics and such. So if you take a look at the two images that you would get for the matte and the actor, you wouldn't necessarily expect them to line up with each other. Of course, since the cameras aren't nodally aligned, we would guess that there would be at least just a two-dimensional transformation that could be made to map the matte image to the color image. In order to determine that, we simply put a checkerboard grid in the light stage illuminated with incandescent light so we could photograph it simultaneously in the color spectrum and the infrared spectrum. Here's the color image there, and here's the infrared image. You can see they don't line up. In fact, they're actually not even technically the same number of pixels. But we notated one of the squares and seeded, by clicking on these 4 points here, an algorithm that then automatically detected all of the corners in the infrared grid and on the color grid. And then we correspond all of these different grid squares and we compute a series of homographies that can map each square of the infrared image to each square of the color image. And that allowed us to take the infrared image and produce a warped infrared image like this that then lines up very well with the original color image. Using this technique, we're able to take the original matte image that we get, warp it so that it lines up with the color image. And we click here, it should show that it's basically lining up with our color image of the actor. And we use that to create a holdout matte of cutting the actor out of the background. And since the actor is originally then photographed on black, the actor is what's called self-matting, which means you simply have to add that image in to that background image in order to form the composite. We're careful to also check to make sure that we don't add the light sources into this image as well by having a threshold of the amount of brightness you need in the map to place the actor. So there's a final composite. There's a couple of other very important color calibration processes that we used in the paper that I'll just touch on here. One thing that was very important was the color calibration of the device. The lights have a certain red, green, and blue spectrum, but the camera has a certain red, green, and blue spectral sensitivity. And we had to figure out a way of driving the lights so that they would show up the appropriate colors when photographed by the particular color camera that we had. And the way that we basically ended up doing that was by placing a white reflecting standard inside the light stage. You can see it here, and seeing for what colors we drove the lights with, what color the reflecting standard ended up being, and computing a 3x3 transformation matrix from the light space to the camera space. We also had to compensate for the fact that the light sources are a little bit like spotlights. They're brighter in the center than on the sides. So the way that we calibrated that out was to take a big white card, place that into the light stage, and turn all the lights on at the same time. And that gave us this fall-off image or vignetting image. Basically, then, since we have a white card in there, we normalize all of the images we get off the color camera by dividing those pixel values by the pixel values that are in this image here. So for our final example, I'd like to show something where we composited an actor into a three-dimensional virtual set where they're actually walking around in the environment and the lighting changes on them depending on where they walk. The set that we had was a set of the Greek Acropolis. In particular, the idea was to have the actor walk along the colonnade of the Parthenon here. This is a model that we constructed and then illuminated with an image-based lighting environment. In this case, we actually went and photographed the sky itself and used that as the illumination on this environment, and then rendered it in the Arnold renderer by Marcus Fajardo, so that the final renderings that we get of the background plates are computed with global illumination with respect to the actual radiometry. So the basic elements that we had then were the background plate of the camera tracking backwards inside the virtual environment down the colonnade. Then to get the lighting, we took a virtual mirrored ball, put it at the position that the actor's head would be as they walked forward, and did an animated rendering of this mirrored ball image, saving these out in high dynamic range, so they essentially are a virtual light probe of the environment as you move forward. And then we took that light probe movie and played it back in the light stage as our actor walked in place, and then did a final composite. So if we can go back to the video, I'll show this example. So we'll see first here is the background plate. The idea is that the columns is sort of late afternoon, the sun's coming through the columns, and the actor will walk into shadow and into sunlight as they move forward. Here's the virtual light probe sequence as we're moving forward. Here's Alana doing an admirable job of looking like she's walking forward, even though she's actually just walking in place. Please get that this was her first time doing it. And you can see that the light is going on and off as she walks forward. That's her walking into the sun and the shadows. And here's her map image as she walks forward. Here's the derived map that we used. And finally, this is Alana walking forward in the environment. There's one other thing that I'd like to point out. We put a couple of colored banners here on the side to see if we are also getting indirect illumination characteristics. And the idea is that when she walks by the red banner, she'll receive a little bit of red indirect light on that side of her face, and then when she walks by the blue banner, so there's a little red indirect light on that side. She walks by the blue banner, she gets a little bit of a bluish tinge on that side of her face as well. So we're getting both the direct and the indirect light in the environment. So for future work, one of the things we'd like to be able to do is to reproduce near-field incident illumination as well. When Alana is walking forward and she steps into the shadow of the Parthenon column, she actually kind of darkens all the same at the same time. And really what should happen is that she should have a visible shadow go along her face as she comes through. We can't reproduce that with these light sources, each of which illuminates the entire actor. So one way that you can do that is by replacing all those light sources with video projectors, which would then reproduce these spatially varying incident fields of illumination. Another thing that we'd like to do is, in our software, add some artistic control so that you can not only get exactly the correct light for where the actor is, but then augment it using the standard tools of cinematography. In any feature film that you'll see, the lighting is always being manipulated very carefully and artistically by the cinematographers, placing rim lights, fill lights, bounce cards all around them. We can do all of these same things in our light stage as well, using the correct example or the correct answer as what we start with, and then artistically moving away from that as a cinematographer might see fit. We also would really like to have more lights so that we don't have doubling shadows. Another thing that you'll see in the paper, we have a picture of a close-up of somebody's eye illuminated in the light stage. You can actually see all the different lights there. More lights will solve that problem. We'd also like to have brighter lights. We were really kind of pushing the brightness sensitivity of our cameras, particularly in lighting environments where a lot of the illumination is concentrated in one particular area, because in order to simulate that correctly, all the rest of the lights have to be quite dim. We're really not using that much of the total lighting power of the stage, so you end up having to turn up the gain on your cameras, which can cause some noise in your composites. So more and brighter lights is a good idea. And also, light stage 3 is really just a prototype. You can only do basically a medium close-up of an actor in it. And ideally, you'd like to be able to get entire actors, multiple actors into scenes where they can actually walk around for real. So that's to build a larger stage. And this is a version of light stage 4, which is basically 50 feet wide. You can see a couple of actors standing here at the bottom. We have a motion control camera. And this is a simulation of what might be going on in it. And we also used a special, particularly bright light source for simulating the sun. And we're hoping to get this together at some point and working with some people who would be interested in making it happen. So with that, we're going to conclude the talk and put up some credits. Thank you very much. We have some time left for questions.
So the computer graphics system you love, it's beautiful work, and I'm really glad to see somebody playing around with geodesic jokes and letters and very choice. But on behalf of a lot of my compositing friends, I'm wondering, is this really necessary? Because people have faked lighting composites for years, and I guess my question is, are the usual tricks of just sticking a light source or a key in a fill on a blue screen set to get a match, is that enough? Are people actually going to notice all this work that's gone into it?
That's an excellent question. That's something that we're trying to study as much as possible. We do generally see that a considerable portion of the post-production of a film is spent on the compositing, and that often any particular shot that needs to be composited and look really good requires being able to have enough time to manipulate the color balances of the scenes. The level of artistry that's been reached in this area is absolutely astounding, and we see in any feature film composites that are just completely real. In most feature films, we also see a couple of blue screen composites that don't look completely real. And in some cases, that's simply because when it was on set, the lighting just wasn't right enough, and the compositor doesn't have as much freedom as they could conceivably have in order to readjust the lighting when it's already a photographed element that they have to work with. So most of the compositors that we've talked to seem to think that this will offer a considerable amount of help. And at the very least, what we'd like to be able to do is to shorten the production times and avoid any possible costly mistakes of just having the lighting not match up correctly. The other thing is that I think that if we can actually push this technology and have the compositors and the cinematographers really help us adapt it to what they need in order to do their work as well as possible, there's a lot of shots that could be put into films that would be composites that would be far more challenging than the things that are actually done today. And the kind of lighting environments that people tend to avoid because they know it's really hard to get it to look right later. Well, we can do those now. We can have much more dynamic camera motion. We can experiment a lot more with the form. So that's what I'm hoping.
To follow up on that last point about the occasional less than optimal lighting and matting, I noticed all the mats, as far as I know, are binary. They're either black or white. Why don't you put some corrective non-zeros into the black part of the mat so that you can actually adjust the lighting on the film plate to compensate for the poor lighting that was done when they shot the shot?
Okay, well, let's see. Well, for the mats that we're using, we're actually getting like a complete alpha channel. So it's white where the actor isn't and black where they are. And if they're moving or if it's a partially occluded pixel, then it actually has the correct percentage that's indicated there. So we can do a correct alpha composite. I think most of the work in the industry also gets that stuff really right. The main things that have been looked at in terms of the blue screen mapping and the technological achievements that have happened there are to really getting those map lines to be absolutely perfect and exactly the right alpha values for good motion blur and for a good edge all
Right, I'm not talking about the edges, I'm talking about the interior.
Okay.
And that would help compensate for the mismatch, the lighting between the virtual and the real stage.
Okay, so you're saying that you could relight the actors simply by having some alpha values across them?
Yeah, in the black part.
In the dark part, okay. That is an interesting fact. I know actually that that's, for example, one of the things that's done in day for night photography. So, for example, in Castaway, all of Tom Hanks being on the island, he was actually shot in the sunlight when there's considerably more, greater degree of bounce light or indirect light from the sky, and then composited the scenes where it's night. And the artists at Sony did a lot of very skillful manipulation of those light levels in indirectly lit areas to pull things down. Again, it takes a bit of effort to do that, and you don't necessarily get something that is radiometrically accurate, and it doesn't always look quite as good as you might like it to. So again, hopefully this will be a useful technique. It's a relatively low-cost thing. LEDs are pretty cheap, and so it might be something that ends up being practical and opening up some new possibilities.
Yeah, could,
Well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for questions now. But Paul and all the other speakers will be up here at the end or right now to take more questions. So let's thank all of our speakers again.